Another edition of Huddle Up here on Northwest Access TV. I'm your host, Paul, for the quote-unquote, I think if we've gotten our math right, 99th episode here of Huddle Up on Northwest Access TV, Channel 15. So we'll have to do something very grand for our 100th episode. Whether or not that'll be next week or not, we'll see. To my left, as always, Dustin Tanner, and most recently, as always, Nick Mumley.
How's it going?
Welcome, boys. Well, okay, that's a great open to the show.
Paul, you got 99 problems, but a public access show ain't one.
That's true. Wow. That's true.
I get one chance to make that joke.
Okay, moving on. Let's start the show the way we always do, with our show starters. And I'll go first because it's just something that irked me yesterday when I saw the news. Best part of the NBA draft tonight is no longer because Adrian Wojnarowski is not able to tweet the picks ahead of time.
But Shams is. Shams can tweet the picks. He's going to tweet the picks.
So he's not able to do that ahead of time. ESPN has pulled the plug on that because last year Woj was not working for ESPN.
He was in his last
He was
month
working
at
Yahoo.
Yeah.
So he was basically just tweeting out the picks well before ESPN was even able to show the coverage of it, which I thought was great because for me as a sports fan, Twitter is like one of my favorite things for the NBA draft. Being able to see all the details ahead of time before they happen, that's awesome for me. Yeah. It's something that I don't do during like the Oscars because I actually want to be surprised by what's happening. But sometimes that stuff does get revealed.
I think for something like the NBA draft too, like I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to sit myself down in front of a TV for 2 or 3 hours tonight when it's on, when I could just easily
2 or 3 hours.
Go on.
Or maybe half hour, an hour of
minutes,
it.
maybe.
Like I might watch from 8 to 9. Like
if I know a trade's been made or something, I'll tune in and be like, okay, what's going on? But no, Shams will still be tweeting the picks beforehand. So it's just one of those things where it's also really hard to keep this stuff under wraps because if you understand the draft process, you got to call the draftee, then the paperwork has to be filed with the NBA. Like it's hard to not leak.
It's not. I think what people don't understand, it's not as instant as people think.
No,
it's not. This is our decision, and it's instantly called. There's a process, like you said.
You got like a 2.5 minute process, and that's when it gets out. And I think it's good that it gets out a little early. I don't mind it. It makes it so I can do other things while watching a draft.
Also, it makes ESPN look bad.
I kind of agree with Dustin. It's something to do while you're watching it. A lot of people say like, "Well, you're always on your phone. You're not watching." It's like, no, it's kind of like I'm watching the behind the scenes of it while it's going on. One of my favorite things ESPN ever did was SportsCenter behind the scenes. So on ESPN they had SportsCenter, and on ESPN2 they had behind the scenes, and it was awesome to watch that. It was cameras everywhere throughout the ESPN facility, and you got to see everything.
And I think it's something that all three of us, as TV guys, can appreciate is I care more about the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I care, look, the product on the field is great, but I care like what's going into that product on the field. When they show the bus at live games, in the parking lot with the satellite on it, and like the 20 people crammed in the back of a minivan typing things in.
Something that TV nerds like us really want to go into, and those people that are in there are probably like, get me out of here.
Yeah, no, that's like my dream job.
Switch
and everybody
jobs
in there
any
hates
day
it.
guy in that truck.
I was afraid.
Dustin, we'll go over to you because we are embracing the tank, which I can't wait to argue this because I can't stand the tank.
I don't like the idea of tanking sometimes. There comes a point where you see your team recycle the same garbage year after year after year. And last year when the Hornets brought in Dwight Howard, I was excited. I thought it was an okay move. I thought maybe if Batum and Walker and Howard meshed well together, we could be in the running for a 4th or 5th seed, have a good year at the top of our ceiling, and it just did not work. And at this point, everybody on NBA Twitter was just bashing the Hornets yesterday for this trade, but it came out that Howard wasn't liked in the locker room. Shocker of the year. Dwight Howard, not good in locker rooms. I am overwhelmed. But it just feels good that our new GM is ready to just blow it up. Because I'm really sick of getting my hopes up to be a 6, 7, or 8 seed and getting crushed in the first round of the playoffs. And there comes a point in the NBA where you don't have enough top-level talent to compete. So what are you trying to do? Like, Kemba Walker is going into the last year of his deal. It's going to be sad. He's probably getting moved tonight. If I had to guess, he's probably getting traded for something tonight. As a Hornets fan,
and where do they stand right now in the draft?
We are 8th in the draft, I believe.
Okay.
Or either 8th or 11th. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But
Yeah, I believe the Cavs are at 8.
yeah, we're at 11 then because Cavs have the 8th pick. Yeah, we're at 11. But, you know, it's gotten to the point, you know, I'm going to be really sad when Kemba Walker gets traded tonight, but also we need to blow it up. We need to blow this thing up. We have bad contracts. We have veterans who don't know how to play. So I've gone full embrace for the tank. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Look.
But you realize the embrace the tank, you have to kind of, there seems to be, like you say, a process here. That might be 4 to 5 years of bad basketball.
And I'm okay with watching 4 to 5 years of bad basketball.
Haven't you kind of already watched 4 to 5 years
Pretty
of bad
much.
basketball?
Like,
And
it's
look
like
what you had to show for
15
it.
years of bad basketball.
It's at the point of like, yeah, the Hornets made the playoffs a couple of times, but besides that, it's like, seeing what the 76ers were able to do, seeing what, as a hockey fan 2 years ago, watching my Colorado Avalanche have the second worst ever season in hockey, and then turn it around because they made these great moves. They traded for these young prospects. They threw these young prospects into the fire and got them NHL ice time. And to watch them make the playoffs this year, it's a lot of fun, and it makes you realize that, look, if you don't have a chance at a ring, blow it up. It's time to blow it up. Kemba Walker, it doesn't matter who you put with him. I don't think we're going to get out of the East. So blow it up, get some picks, get some young kids, watch some bad basketball, laugh at it, don't take it too seriously, and embrace it. And I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to be here, well, the Hornets can make the playoffs if they trade for these 3 players, because they can't.
I feel like you're okay with the fact that Charlotte could be bad because it's during hockey season, which is kind of your wheelhouse. So
It does.
For you, basketball is kind of like that back seat, like, I guess I'll watch basketball.
And on one
I don't
hand,
really care if my team does well because I'm really focused on hockey.
I'm rooting for a hockey team that's like the second youngest team in the NHL, made the playoffs last year, has $25 million of cap room, has a couple of first-round picks, which we'll get into in
We
a
get
later
it. We get
segment.
it. You're the pitch man. Okay. We get it.
Now, my question for you, though, is if I remember correctly, Charlotte was in the same exact situation a little under 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when Kemba Walker came in and all that. Now that rebuild's kind of over with. Mm-hmm. What would make this one different?
I think what makes this one different is that we have some competent leadership. When Kemba Walker was drafted, the Bobcats were in the transition of being sold from the first owner, who was awful, to Michael Jordan. And I consider the first part of Kemba's career as a lost career because, there was never a team identity. Yeah. They had Steven Jackson, Gerald Wallace. They had actually made the playoffs a couple years before. They were the Atlanta Hawks light. Remember when the Atlanta Hawks would make the playoffs every year as like a 3rd or 4th seed, wouldn't get anywhere, but would make the playoffs. And that's what it felt like. So, we never have really gone for the full blow it up either. And I think it's time to go for a full blow it up and just see what we can find,
We'll talk more about that with the NBA draft coming up when we get to our lineup for the day. But we have one more show starter to round it out, and that would be Nick, who's saying bye-bye to Dustin Pedroia, or it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah. Dustin Pedroia, Alex Cora said, I believe 2 nights ago, that it's time or that he's not even close to starting up baseball activities again. He's missed the entire season so far, except for 3 games. Mm-hmm. He's 1 for 11 in the 3 games he played, which, I'm sure they weren't at 100%, but still. And in the AL East right now, in the AL overall, the race is just so close. And for somebody to be dragging the Red Sox down like that.
Do you think it's really a distraction if he's not even with the team in the first place?
I do, because ultimately it cost the Red Sox Hanley Ramirez, because they said, all right, Pedroia's coming back. We got to get rid of somebody. So they got rid of Hanley Ramirez, and now and he played 3 games, and now he's just back on the DL again. It sounds like he's not coming back anytime soon. So it's really is dragging the team down because they can't keep making these decisions.
I think it's kind of it's very speculative because you're saying we got rid of Hanley to add Pedroia.
Yeah,
but
that's what they did.
Right, but by having Pedroia still on the staff, you're not losing out on what Hanley wasn't giving you in the first place because you had Moreland and Swihart that you can play in his place instead.
Yeah, but
honestly, I'd rather see Swihart get more at-bats than Hanley continue to swing and miss.
And that's understandable, but at the same time, Hanley I think the Red Sox are kind of missing Hanley right now because he was really good against left-handed pitching, which they're struggling against right now. And the whole thing about Pedroia, the Red Sox need him to be there right now, and he just hasn't been. And I do think that he's starting to drag them down, and I think that they've got to some sort of action. Not to mention, he's going to be 35 in August, and he's still got 4 years left on his contract at like $16 million a year. So I mean, those are all going to be major things that pile up. So I think sooner rather than later is the time to get rid of Dustin Pedroia.
I think there comes a point in a player's career who's played in the hometown the entire career where you have to admit that they are not the same player that they once were. And it's really hard for fans to digest that, right?
Yeah,
it's really
definitely.
hard, as a Texans fan, J.J. Watt, if he doesn't produce this year, he's getting cut next offseason. That's basically it. Like, it's hard to accept that, but there comes that point, and I think we're at that point with a guy like Pedroia, where, you tell me what he brings to you right now. He's not really bringing it. Yeah, he brings grit.
I would agree with you if we had a young second baseman coming up the pipe, or a middle infielder coming up the pipe, that could take his place. And that was going to be, I think, Moncada.
Yeah.
So we don't have him anymore.
Yeah.
The farm system is pretty much shot in half. You can ask any kind of analyst that looks at those types of statistics. If you had someone coming up young enough to be able to play second base on a daily basis, I would say, sure, that maybe it's time to cut ties. But right now, it's a rotation of Brock Holt
and
Nunez, which I don't really have faith in either one of them to produce on a yearly on an over-year basis. So
do you have faith in Dustin Pedroia right now?
Especially after
it depends on if he can
surgery.
get healthy or not. We've seen what he is when he's healthy. So like you said, maybe this isn't the year, but next year if he comes back healthy, he's got the whole year off to be able to do that. Maybe he comes back and can give you another couple decent years.
I think
If anything, enough time to distract away from trying to develop the farm system to bring a second.
I don't know what his contract is, but I know the Mets. If the Mets are going to go blow it up, they have Asdrubal Cabrera still playing shortstop. Idea for the Red Sox to look at right there.
Right.
Bring him in as a short gap situation because Cabrera is still pretty decent. But I don't think Dustin Pedroia, I would like to see if he can hit at the level that Holt and Nunez are hitting at, because I don't think he can at this point. I think he's lost.
Right now, I don't think he can, but I'd like to see what he can do when he's actually healthy and on the field for an extended period of time, not the small sample size of 3 games.
Yeah, but like I said, it's such a tight race. Like, you really can't afford to be taking any risks. You need to start setting your playoff roster now.
Right, I don't think they can afford doing what they're doing right now with the rotation at second base. I think they need to go out there and find someone.
I think the best way to do it.
But it might be. But I think the more realistic part of it is they're probably going to grab a rental player. They're not going to go out and grab the next face of second base for the Red Sox.
No, I don't want.
It's very similar to what they did with Nunez. They pulled him from San Francisco and he flourished.
Yeah, I don't want them to. Like, they do need to pick up a rental guy. Like, Cabrera would be a great guy to bring in.
Good rental for the Red Sox.
It would be. And, maybe that's a place where Pedroia can go, too, because, the Mets, they're looking to blow it up. Pedroia is currently out right now. They could just say, hey, Dustin, sit for the rest of this year. We'll bring you back next year. We'll try to get some better players around you, and then maybe we can make a run then. Plus, it'll help get them a better pick in the draft because, they've got this second baseman, but he can't play right now.
The Mets are also an interesting team because they still have DeGrom, and Mets are interesting. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into our main topics. The big one that we've been talking about, NBA draft is tonight. And the order's set. I don't have it in front of me, but there's been speculation and on a local standpoint that the Celtics may be looking to bump up.
Sounds like a lot of people are the Celtics, along with 6 other lottery teams, are looking at the Memphis Grizzlies' fourth overall
pick. That's what I keep hearing too.
And that's classic Danny Ainge. That's an interesting pick to me because Memphis is in this weird zone where they still have Gasol, they still have Connolly. They are not in a market where they can necessarily blow it up, I don't think. I don't think Memphis is in a place where, the idea of just blowing it up right now is good to them. I think they want to get a couple of pieces to maybe make a mid-round playoff push. So I think they should just keep the 4th pick, but I don't know. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen tonight because one of 2 things is going to happen tonight. Memphis is going to trade that 4th pick, and we're just going to have chaos all over, a chaotic one. Like, I'm thinking about when the Celtics traded for the big 3, that draft tonight. That was fun. Or
I think if you go back, it still says that the Celtics drafted Ray Allen. That's how they used to do that. Where if there was a trade made, it would say with like the 5th pick of the draft, the Celtics select Ray Allen via trade.
Yeah.
But it's really funny to see like your name back up on the draft board.
And I think it's a big, it's going to either be a really explosive night or it's just going to be a stinker.
It's going to be a teller for the rest of this offseason because we're still in. Again, we haven't really hit NBA free agency in a way where there's or free agency, but we haven't really hit like the whole the trade war that is to come for the NBA. So this is really going to tell a lot what that.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what like a team like the Cavs does because the Cavs, they had that 8th overall pick. I don't know what I do if I'm Cleveland with that 8th overall pick because on one hand, you could try to trade it for an asset to keep LeBron or try to trade it for an asset to keep competitive when LeBron leaves, or you could just say, we're just going to take a good player with this pick. And then you have Memphis, and then you have teams like, the NBA is interesting because what about the Clippers? The Clippers have the 12th and 13th pick. Mm-hmm. They might be in the running for Kawhi. Like, what's going on there? What's Jerry West got in his, what's going on? Like, that's the big thing that, tonight's draft, we will know a lot more about what the free agency landscape is going to look like at about midnight tonight. That's when we will know a lot.
So what could happen tonight? I pose this question to you. What could happen tonight that would make us all on the edge of our seat and say this free agency season is going to be nuts?
Kawhi goes to the Clippers.
No, tonight, the NBA draft.
No,
so you're saying tonight?
I'm saying tonight, the Spurs.
Does he have to go to the Clippers or can he go to any team in LA?
I think it is the Clippers because, everybody is assuming the Lakers at this point. But if he goes to the Clippers, Jerry West, can put some talent around him and it might not be as cutthroat. Also,
they still have DeAndre Jordan there too. So.
Look at what Oklahoma City does tonight because reports from Oklahoma City have said that Paul George isn't as necessarily in LA as we all thought he was.
I think the speculation of those rumors is well beyond what a rumor actually is the definition of because it's everyone just automatically said Kawhi, LeBron, Paul George, all going to LA.
Well,
and it drove me a little nuts because it's just, you guys are just picking a spot and saying that's where they're going.
Right.
And it sounds like that in Paul George's camp that like his wife and his family want him in LA, but Paul George actually enjoys playing with Westbrook.
Same thing with LeBron and same thing with, and with
Paul
Kawhi.
George,
he's from LA, so clearly they're all going to LA.
And I think Paul George, kind of liked that situation in Oklahoma City. And I think Oklahoma City, if they could just get rid of Melo somehow with Robinson coming back from injury this year, they're a better team if they get another year to meld together. And I think Paul George could look at that and say, well, I could just take a max deal here, play with Westbrook, be, loved, don't have to have the LA pressure. And then you look at Kawhi, who is saying, I don't want to be with the Spurs. I want to take $35 million less. Like this guy is leaving $35 million on the table by not wanting to take the supermax of the Spurs to go play in LA, but he doesn't want to be the face of the franchise, which makes absolutely no sense to me. If you don't want to be the face, if you don't want the pressure of the face of the franchise, why don't you go somewhere like Indiana? Like, it just makes no sense to not want to be the face of the franchise, but go to LA. Like that baffles me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I would probably say there's 20 teams in the NBA, and that might even be light, that if he goes to that team, will be the face of that franchise.
Why does he go to like the Utah Jazz? Like you don't want to be a star, go to the Utah Jazz. You got
the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, that'd be nice. In my dreams. But no, I really find the dynamic, I know we can talk about the Celtics looking to jump some spots, but the Celtics apparently called the Spurs in January.
It seems like they want the world for Kawhi Leonard. And I think what's weird about the whole Kawhi Leonard thing too is he's not a free agent. He still has a year left on his contract.
He's got a year left on his contract, and then the Spurs can give him the supermax.
Right.
Which is
so weird about this whole thing is he's basically saying, I don't want to play with you guys anymore. Like trade me. You need to get rid of me. I'm not going to put my effort in with you guys anymore.
And it speaks a lot to his character because he's got. You can make the argument that Greg Popovich is the best coach in basketball history. Like I'm not in the Phil Jackson camp because Phil Jackson was gifted stars everywhere he went, and the moment Phil Jackson wasn't gifted stars, we saw how he did. But Greg Popovich, you can make the argument that he's the greatest coach in NBA history, and for Kawhi to want to quit on this guy, he wants to quit on Popovich and leave $35 million on the table really speaks to what type of person he is. He hasn't talked.
Okay, well, I would even say to that, what about Kyrie Irving? We saw this last year with Kyrie, 2 years ago, whatever, with Kyrie Irving, where he basically, the rumors were that he's like, I don't want to play with this. I don't want to play with LeBron anymore. I don't want to play with this team anymore. I want out. You have to trade me. What happens?
I
He
think
leaves.
that's a little bit different.
I think that's a lot different.
How? It's almost the exact
Kyrie
same
wanted
thing.
Kyrie wanted to run his own franchise. He was behind LeBron's shadow
But
for
he wanted
his
out.
entire
He wanted
career.
out of whatever team he was on.
Yeah, but he wanted it. I think the reasoning was a lot different. Kawhi doesn't really have any reasoning. I don't think.
I guess he just wants to go play in LA. But
Yeah,
not be
like
the star. That's what he
like,
wants.
You could speculate. The
reasoning
reason he
just
doesn't want to be
doesn't
with
make
teams is
sense.
because he doesn't like the team franchise because of what happened with him and the team doctors. Like that's
Which
what
is-
everyone's talking about is
Then
because
get new
they basically
team
told him
doctors.
they basically told him you can play. He's like, I can't play.
And I think he should have sucked it up.
Right.
I think he should. You know what? This Spurs team made the playoffs without him, mind you, and they still have LaMarcus Aldridge. And we heard last year, Aldridge wanted a trade, and then Popovich, was able to convince him to be on board. And the Spurs system, the Spurs are the NBA's version of the Patriots, right? Where you come in, you play the system, you do your job,
And we get to the playoffs every year.
and we get to the playoffs every year, and every couple of years we'll probably win a title if everybody is good. Even last year before he got hurt, the Spurs had a chance to beat this Warriors team. Like they were losing the games by 5 or 6 points.
Well, last year that was the matchup we wanted to see. That was the Western
Right.
Conference Finals
they-
that we wanted to see. We
yeah,
wanted to
and
see
they both
San Antonio
had-
versus.
They both had 70
Golden State.
wins, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Spurs, it's
A very quiet 70 wins.
Well, which is just the Spurs.
By the Spurs,
Spurs
right.
are always going to win 60 games. And you're going to look up and they won 60 games. Huh, the Spurs. But it's really interesting to me that he wants to quit on this team because when I look at Kyrie, I look at the decision of I'm sick of playing in LeBron James' shadow. La GM is awful. He built an awful team. Get me out of here. Let me be my own star. Let me go and let me be my star. Kawhi, on the other hand, is like, I don't want to play with Greg Popovich because the Spurs doctors told me I should play when we were in the middle of a playoff run, but apparently I was hurt and I didn't communicate anything with the team. And his camp is, starting all these rumors. And he was trying to get traded from San Antonio without sitting down and talking to Greg Popovich face to face, which is. We get on Kevin Durant about what he did, but this is a whole nother level of snake. And if Kawhi goes to the Lakers and LeBron and Paul George go to the Lakers, I will come in with a Golden State Warriors jersey and I will be full on evil empire.
I don't know if JT would like that or not. I'm on the verge of he'd probably tell you take that off. I don't want that ever to touch you.
If the Lakers turn into this super team overnight, you bet I'm going to become the biggest Golden State Warriors fan in the state of
You can
Vermont.
pick any other Western Conference team.
No,
It has to be Golden State.
because at least
Dustin, I think a bunch of 11-year-olds have a lot to have a lot to argue there.
Yeah,
about the biggest
11-year-olds.
Golden State Warriors.
The
fan
lifelong Golden State Warriors
Yeah.
fans of 7 years old.
Ever. Yeah.
I look at it and I say, at least when I look at the Warriors, at least they built 80% of this team the correct way,
Right.
And then they got their
I
star.
was thinking that because they had Adam Silver was on ESPN Radio, and he was talking about how he kept calling the Warriors a super team, and I actually I don't think I take offense to it, but I think that's the wrong term for them. They weren't a super team. They drafted correctly.
They have a super team
built a
scouting
team.
department is what
They
they
built
have,
a team,
yeah.
right? But the only thing that made them the super team is one. They call them super team because they drafted well. They won championships with who they had. Oh yeah, and then they went out and got one of the best players in the NBA.
Right.
Yes, that kind of makes him the super team in that sense. But I feel like they shouldn't be considered that. We should be giving them way more credit than a lot of people get.
Oh no, there's something about Golden State where you can get mad at Golden State.
I don't want them to be put in the super team. I know that they are a great team. They're a fantastic. They've won 3
Well, this
championships.
team went out, and
but
it's
to
not
call them
like-
a super team is kind of unfair because they did it the right way.
And it's not like they drafted 3 guys in the first 3 picks of the
Right.
draft. It's they got Draymond 23rd overall. They got Clay between 8 and 15, and they got Curry between 5 and 15. When Steph Curry came out, everybody was like, "Oh, he's not going to be able to sustain this in the NBA." And they also did get a little lucky with Steph Curry's injury and was able to sign him to that smaller deal at the first. But then they brought in Iguodala for leadership, and they built the team the correct way. They built the team the same way that Oklahoma City built the team, except for Oklahoma City decided to just shoot themselves in the foot and trade Harden instead of Ibaka, which is one of the worst decisions made in hindsight. But, you see some of these teams, what are the Celtics doing right now? They're building the team.
Right.
They're building the
Through
team.
the farm system, right.
Yeah.
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 Let's talk about the biggest free agent of the NBA offseason, LeBron James. The next decision, where will he end up? And it's so funny that everyone kind of just speculated he's going to LA. And then then people start to maybe make a case for other teams. And the one that I thought was really interesting was Houston.
Yep.
Would be kind of a good spot for him because he's still able to take on that kind of semi-leadership role, but he's got talent surrounding him as well. And it's a team that can compete with the likes of Golden State. Well more than any other team you could probably create.
Yeah.
I don't know what LeBron's going to do at this point. I think LeBron is in a situation where, unless if he goes to a team that has a lot of cap room and he can get a couple stars to go with him, he's kind of shot himself in the foot. Like, the way that Cavaliers team has been built, pushing for Tristan Thomas to get the contract that Tristan Thomas got.
Yeah.
I think why the Heat worked was that LeBron James had a strong GM that would put him in his place in Pat Riley. He doesn't have that in Cleveland. I think in Los Angeles he would have that with Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson would not take that for a second from LeBron James. But, it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes and to see what the dynamic is, right? Because I don't think he can win another title with the Cavs unless if they acquire a really big piece, and who that piece would be. You've heard rumors about Kemba Walker. You've heard some rumors about Damian Lillard in some cases. Like, I don't think Kemba Walker helps the Cavs beat the Warriors. I don't think Damian Lillard, maybe he'll help, but I don't think there's really a piece you can put in that roster.
They're going to need multiple pieces, and Cleveland just doesn't have what it takes to get multiple pieces.
They don't
have the cap room, and they don't have the trade pieces. I mean,
this is what he does, though.
Other than Kevin Love and that 8th overall pick, who on the Cavs are you going to want?
It's all dead weight.
I mean,
it's all dead weight in that team.
Yeah, there's no good trade value.
Which goes to my
on that
initial
team
question.
at all.
Where do you think he ends up?
I'd say somewhere in LA.
So you think will go Western Conference?
I think he'll go Western. I think he'll go LA. I think he'll go to either the Clippers or the Lakers. I think the smart move for LeBron would be to go to the Clippers because Jerry West has shown that he is a magician so far. Like, Jerry West has built 1,000 teams that can win. Those Memphis Grizzlies teams that would win 45 to 55 games every year. Jerry West built those. He was able to get something out of Blake Griffin, which is really interesting because Blake Griffin's contract was bad. And he was able to make something happen with Chris Paul, even though Chris Paul was on his way out the door. Jerry West is a top 5 GM. And if LeBron James wants another championship, he will go to 2 places. He will either go to the LA Clippers or he'll go to the Houston Rockets. And I don't think going to the Houston Rockets is a good idea because the amount of cap magic that Murray is going to have to make happen to get LeBron James
they'll have a bench like the Cavaliers do now.
They will have a really weak bench, and Chris Paul. What they would have to do, I believe, is LeBron would have to opt into the last year of his deal. And then they would have to work out a sign and trade with the Rockets. So the Rockets could then have the bird rights of everybody and then go over the cap and go over the tax to sign everybody next year. I don't know if you want to do that. I don't know if Harden and LeBron's styles will mesh. The thing that makes James Harden so good is that he is a ball handler. Like he is an on-ball guy. It's the same reason why LeBron going to the 76ers doesn't really make sense because Ben Simmons is your ball handler.
Exactly.
Like, LeBron James is, in my opinion, the greatest player in the NBA. As far as the greatest teammate in the NBA goes,
not so much.
And I think the reason why the Miami Heat worked was because Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade weren't...
Yeah, they all brought different strengths to the table.
Right, but Dwayne Wade was that guy, and he stepped aside.
And that's what.
So you basically just have to convince your newest teammates that's what you need to do.
And I don't know if he can be able to do that with James Harden. I know Chris Paul will step aside, but I don't know if LeBron to Houston will work. It depends on what type of role LeBron wants for the rest of his career. Because if he wants to be a mentor and wants to help a team grow and doesn't necessarily need the ball 24/7, 76ers could be a good landing spot. But this is where LeBron James's glaring weakness comes out to play. It's very hard in today's shooters NBA because if you look at LeBron James from three-point, he can't shoot three-point. You can't just have him chuck three-pointers all day. Like he's like what, a 40% three-point shooter or something like that?
He's not also playing like an average of like 46, 47 minutes a game too.
Right. Yeah, but he's not great from beyond
able to limit his minutes to 40, 42. Maybe he's able to make a few more threes.
And before Kawhi said he wanted out, I would say the best fit for a championship for LeBron would be the Spurs. I think it would be the Spurs.
It very well still might be, depending if Popovich is able to get into Kawhi's head or not.
Yep.
I mean, if LeBron comes to the Spurs with LaMarcus Aldridge, all they need is a shooter, and the Spurs will pull a shooter out of France for or go to Spain or France, just pull somebody who can jack 55% up from three out of nowhere, and there you go, there's your team. But I don't think there's a good fit for LeBron James in today's NBA unless if he's willing to change his play style.
I think there's always a fit for LeBron James on any team.
It's just will it work? And I don't know if it will necessarily work.
See, I think, and I think it's funny because I've thought the same thing about LeBron, but just going to the Lakers. And, I've kind of had this opinion for a couple of weeks now. And, I look back at how the Cavs were able to, kind of stick around with the Warriors for most of the games in the finals. Obviously, they weren't good enough to really beat them. But, LeBron had them close. And, that was a terrible team behind LeBron. I think if you put LeBron in LA with either Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, one of those two, and then probably you'll get 2 out of the 3 of Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and Brandon Ingram, with one of them probably going off to the Spurs if they do get Kawhi. That's a team that could beat the Warriors, I think, because, people do underestimate LeBron and just how good he is because, that Cavaliers team that he took to the finals single-handedly was just so bad. And, he was able to get them all the way to the finals. If he's able to have that influence on a team with actual good players on it, I think that they would steamroll. I think the Lakers would steamroll the Warriors if they.
We don't really take your takes to the bank there. Nick, so.
If they can bring in LeBron, if they can bring in LeBron or either Kawhi or Paul George, I think that they will beat the Warriors in the NBA or in the Western Conference Finals.
Now you're talking gibberish.
In 6 games.
A couple
That's
people that
way too early
could
prediction.
have been going places. We're gonna change gears here to football real quick. The Brady and Gronk mystery era seems to finally be over for Patriots fans. It looks like Brady's not going anywhere for a while, and the same thing with Gronk. The contract extensions are being worked out, and everyone's coming back. Now, I get OTAs. They stopped those early, which they've done in years past. But now we're looking towards minicamp. The quarterback and the tight end are coming back. So what's your feeling as a Patriot fan? I guess, Nick, first off, of the nucleus is at least coming back, and it looks like it will be here for a while.
Well, I think that the Patriots doesn't really change much, that the Patriots are still not going to be a great team next year, simply because Brady has no protection. And, I think that'll show. I mean, at the end of the day, he's what?
Well, he doesn't have protection. They lost one offensive lineman. Granted, it is Nate Solder, right? Yep. But they lost one offensive lineman, and now everyone just says right off the bat he has no protection anymore.
Well, I don't think he had much protection to begin with.
He was getting hit a lot last year.
And to lose Nate Solder was a huge blow for that team. There's so much uncertainty on that offensive line. That's an offensive line that has not been good recently. They've been struggling the last couple of years. And, with Brady getting up there in age, he's, 41 now?
I would say they actually improved from 2016, where they played, was it the Broncos in the AFC Championship game? Where he got hit every play. Yeah. They've completely improved the last couple of years with that.
I agree with you there, but I mean, at the same time, I think there's way too much uncertainty to be certain about the Patriots right now, especially, and they didn't just lose offensive linemen. They lost Malcolm Butler. They lost Danny Amendola. Like, those are 2 of the guys.
They're key parts to an offense.
Those 3 games that Amendola plays a year are going to be real missed.
Well, he was a big playoff performer when he was
especially
around.
with Edelman out the whole year.
Right, and
Edelman's not even going to be back at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Too.
Right, and after now facing maybe facing a 4-game suspension.
Perhaps,
This is the weirdest possible suspension I think I've ever seen, where there's just no news about it. There's no.
Right.
We're just no
Well,
one's
the
and no
NFL
one's
has
really
that
saying he's
policy
going
that
to
kind
be.
of blocks everything, which is incredibly stupid. I mean, if a player tests positive for PEDs, what did he do? Like, when did he do it? Like, that's something that
Well, he hadn't. He didn't.
Right.
He was found guilty of a masking agent that the NFL's never seen before, I guess.
Right.
Or something that's involved with a masking agent. So
Great. It's called Scrappy.
Yeah.
The Scrappy masking agent.
But no, like the NFL needs to let that stuff like that.
I think the process needs to go a lot faster.
It needs to go faster, and it needs to be more open. I mean, the whole policy where we don't tell anybody about what's going on is just so stupid. You know, I think the fans have a right to know. I think the media has a right to know. I think definitely the front office has a right to know. When I hear that, you know, the Patriots front office doesn't know what
if their
was.
star wide receiver will be there for
I
the
think
first
that's
4 games.
absolutely ridiculous and one of the biggest problems in the NFL. So I mean, it's all been just a giant mess. But you know, as a Patriots fan, if we can get out of next year 11-5 and win
Which
the
they
AFC
will.
East,
I think I'll take the over on 11-5.
I will.
They don't get out of
I will be happy.
You look
there.
at that division, the Jets still don't have it figured out. Miami is in this weird place of, is Tannehill our quarterback of the future, or is he not our quarterback of the future? And the
Here's
Bills
the
are
easy answer.
just
No.
I think
Bills
I
are
did
just
see
idiots.
a quote unquote power rankings type of chart. It wasn't ESPN's power ranking or NFL's, but it was basically said that the Bills, the Jets, and Miami are in the bottom 5 of the entire NFL at this point. So as a Patriots fan, I'm not worried in the slightest because even an average team will win that division by Thanksgiving.
As a fan of the Texans, I feel really good if our quarterback stays healthy of getting a playoff spot because the AFC
Who's just
right
ranked
now,
the number 1 fantasy player,
the
projected
AFC,
fantasy player.
The AFC right now is really, you got the Patriots and then a bunch of question marks. The Steelers, Ben's getting older. The Bengals, what are they going to do?
You don't know what Bell's going to do either with the Steelers. That's still a question mark.
We don't know that.
Well, Jacksonville's been looking good. Jacksonville's defense.
Jacksonville's got a great defense, but Jacksonville reminds me of exactly what the Texans have been the last couple of years. They've always had a quarterback that can just not mess up and get them to the playoffs, but the minute they have to win the game, they can't win the game. The Colts are getting Andrew Luck back, but they still don't have a team around him. The Tennessee Titans look like they're going to be a powerhouse. I'd say the Titans could win the division, but then again, you have a team like Houston where when
that's going to be a fun division to watch.
When Deshaun Watson was at 100%, he was this offense scored 63 points last year.
Right.
The Titans have not upgraded their defense enough to stop the Texans from scoring 60 points again this year. I think
Andrew Luck's back with the Colts. So I think there's a lot of players, especially in that AFC South, that could really make something happen next year. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic about the Patriots and say, this team's going to suck.
Sounds like you're pessimistic about the Patriots.
I'm not. I am fully prepared to see this kind of start to crumble down. I think that the kind of tip of the iceberg was the Super Bowl last year, or 2 years ago.
When Nick Foles caught that pass is when the Patriots dynasty ends. No, I'm kidding.
No, but
Hyperbole here, guys.
Brady still goes out and throws over 500 yards. No big deal.
Yeah, and that is the defense still going to be there anyway too. I mean,
do you even need a defense at this point in the NFL? Come on, come on, man.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of stuff can't happen. I mean,
I would say the Patriots defense has improved completely from last year. You have Hightower that's going to be back.
Yeah.
You have people keep saying that the other McCourty twin is better than Gilmore is at this point when it comes to practice. So as good as Gilmore was towards the second half of that year, I'd love to see someone that's just as good as him play on that.
I think the NFL is going to be really interesting this year. I think, I don't know, as a fan, and I guess I say this as a fan, but this is the best I've felt about my team in a while.
It should be. It should be.
Which really scares me because that means we're going 1-15.
You have an offensive, gem in Deshaun Watson coming back, and then you also have J.J. Watt on the defense coming back.
The Texans just extended McKinley, who is our best linebacker, not named Merciless. I look at my team, I'm excited, and that makes me feel like, oh no, what's coming. What's coming down the pipe? Because I've never been this excited about it. Every year for me has been like, all right, we can get 9 wins, and maybe if we could get like a Joe Flacco like run out of whatever dead body we have behind center now. But now I feel like we should be able to win 12 games, which is not a good feeling because I don't want to expect anything from my team, it's going to be a long fall.
One thing I wanted to point out to you guys, just to talk about, I was reading this on Monday Morning Quarterback, is that the Patriots have, and I'm kind of just taking their words for right now, reportedly talked to 4 trusted teams when talking about trading Gronk.
Texans
and Texans is one of those teams. So this is actually the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I've heard of like this little brotherhood of some NFL teams going on, because I think
it's the tree of Bill Belichick,
right? And that's what I mean. It's the trio. It's the trio. It's the trio of Bill Belichick, right? But I've never really seen that in football. We've seen it in, I think, other sports, but I've never really seen it in like a kind of like a small pipeline of trusted teams. One, the 49ers is part of that 4 teams, and the only thing they have connected to the Patriots at all is the fact that they traded Garoppolo to them. Yeah. So,
I think Belichick has a lot of respect for the Shanahan coaching tree.
Sure. And he said he respects Shanahan very well. So, I mean, everything was after the Atlanta Super Bowl, but anyway. So you have the Lions where Matt Patricia is. You have the Titans where Mike Vrabel is, who's one of Belichick's star linebackers of all time. Yep. And then you have the Houston Texans, where Bill O'Brien is.
I think Bill O'Brien, if you look at the disciples of Bill Belichick, O'Brien has been the most successful. The record doesn't show it, but as far as most playoff appearances goes, like his man genius flamed out. I can't think of another Belichick tree coach that has been able to sustain his success as long as Bill O'Brien has. So it's really interesting looking at those 4 teams and saying, oh, they all have a connection to Belichick, except for the 49ers, but I think he respects the Shanahan tree. And doesn't Shanahan and Belichick come from the same? It's not the Walton tree, is it? It's not.
Come from the same oak.
Maybe his father Shanahan.
Like maybe father Shanahan and Belichick.
But not this Shanahan.
I thought they came from some. I thought they came from the same place at some point.
It would have been the Browns, if anything.
I think it would have been the Browns or something like that. But
I look the Jets too.
I look at the
under
team,
Parcells.
I look at the. I think it is the Parcells tree that they both came from. And I look at the fact that the Patriots are talking to trades to these teams, and I say, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, but is it weird that there's that little trust group in the NFL? Because like I said, we've never really seen that, or there's never been a real connection to it.
I think Bill Belichick loves the game, and I think Bill Belichick is one of those guys where if he wants to ship off Gronk for a couple of picks, he'll go to his people who have learned the game under him and who have studied under Belichick first.
Is it weird as a competitor to do that though? Because instead we're not going to say he's going to trade it to anyone in the AFC East, but to a competitor like a Houston team, would you want to face Gronk on that if it meant a couple draft picks? Because that's kind of like that's the one player I think on the offense I wouldn't want to play. Well, you would be the Houston. Well, Houston plays the Patriots this year in the first few weeks, and if anything that we've seen from Gronk, he's at least going to be healthy for the first.
As a Texans fan, I would have loved Gronk because the one thing our offense is missing and has been missing is a tight end. Like that's it. We have 2 running backs. We have a wide receiver. We have a slot wide receiver. We have a deep wide receiver. Like the only thing our offense is missing is a tight end, which is really frustrating. But no, I don't think it's weird. I think the Patriots. I think Belichick understands that some players won't fit in his system, and if they fit in
the system, this Gronk is like he is the system.
But he doesn't really fit the Patriot way when you think about it. Like Gronk goes in parties. Like Gronk's favorite number is 69. Do you think Bill Belichick likes that? Like you think Bill Belichick?
You know what? If I had to guess, I don't think Bill Belichick cares. People say all these things that Brady's making, comments on Instagrams, and Gronk is being the mystery man with all his quotes. I don't think Belichick cares, because if he sees production on the field, he's one of those guys where I would think, I don't care what the heck you do in your personal time as long as you still keep the production at 100%. The second you slip down to 99%, that's when I'm going to start caring what you do. And Brady and Gronk aren't those 2 people that do that. So I think for Belichick, I just think he doesn't care what these guys do in their personal time as long as they're being productive.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back local, as we always do on Huddle Up. That's the show. We're going to talk a little Lake Monsters, because Nick was at the home opening double header night, a midnight game that happened the other night on Monday, right?
Goodness.
Monday into Tuesday, rather.
Yeah.
The 24 hours of Lake Monsters.
It was a slight mess. So the whoever the brainchild of this idea was deserves a raise for sure. They decided to make a double-header game because
Paul Dowd, is that or John Dowd or something like that, or whoever the general manager is.
Idea. But yeah, Monday night was opening night, and as we could all see, if we have windows, if you guys have
You weren't
windows in
playing
your
baseball Monday night.
You weren't playing baseball on Monday, but the Lake Monsters still tried to. So they got 7 pitches into opening day, and then it started pouring again. They told all the fans to go home and come back tomorrow at 6:05.
6:05 to start time for the first game.
2 games. One 9-inning game and another 7-inning game. So you're playing a total of 16 innings, and you start at 6 o'clock. And you have it was about 20-25 minutes in between games to they gotta repaint the lines, they gotta rake the infield, take care of the grass, the groundskeeping things, and they started at 6:05, and even if this game went 2.5 hours, like any normal baseball game would have, that's 8:30. That's an 8:30 start time for game 2. This is supposed to be a kid-friendly place. What parent is going to keep their kids or going to bring their kids to a ballpark for an 8:30 start time? I mean, come on. And and then the game itself was just a complete mess. Every time there was about 150 walks issued, including the last one to win the game.
The walk-off.
Yeah, the walk-off. And then they come out and there's about every third batter, there was either a mound visit or the catcher would walk the ball back to the pitcher, the infield would come in, and they'd all huddle there for about 15 seconds. It was their own personal Huddle Up show in the middle of the game. And the first game took a total of 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Which is unheard of for a minor league baseball game.
And they didn't even play the full game. This was a suspended game that was resumed, and it took 3 hours and 45 minutes.
I have a rebuttal, but I'll
start with my first rebuttal.
Let's go with Dustin first.
If you know anything about the Vermont Lake Monsters, Centennial Field is owned by UVM. The UVM Medical Center uses the parking lot at Centennial Field for all their staff parking during the day. So it is very hard during a weekday for the Lake Monsters to push really anything above 6 o'clock at night. So I don't fault them for starting at 6:05 because, people will leave the parking lot at around 5 o'clock and making, you can't really have a 5 o'clock start time for a Lake Monsters game because traffic in that area, I don't fault them for that. That's not their fault. I don't fault them for having to do the 2-inning games because, minor league teams, they're not running with big payrolls. Connecticut only comes up here a certain amount of times, so you have a nice night for baseball. You got to get both games in. As far as a game taking 3 hours, that's where my rebuttal ends because I've never seen a Lake Monsters game take over 3 hours.
Oh, this was almost 4 hours.
I've never seen a Lake Monsters game take almost 4 hours. That's amazing to me.
As a former intern for a minor league independent baseball league, Nick, I have to say to you, what did you expect? It's minor league baseball. It's funny because we talk about the players are learning how to play the game for the first time. What do you think the staff and GM are doing as well? They're doing the same thing. They're learning how to run an organization. They will see the mistakes of what they decided to do and have a 6:30 start time for a doubleheader. Yeah. They'll see that, but they're learning too. And I guess that's my argument to you is everyone's learning together. It's single A short season. It's literally the smallest season of all baseball.
It's like the step up from fall ball.
Yeah. These kids are actually drafted. Some of them are drafted out of high school and thrown into this team.
Did you guys see what happened in the second game? I didn't stick around for the entire second game because it was just too late. But in the second game, Vermont, they went into extra innings.
Yep, and then they walked off
tied
again.
at 0, and they
They had a
walked
hit.
off with their first hit of the game.
Yes.
They got no hit through 7 in whatever
And
innings.
in the Austin, they scored 10 runs and got a home run.
Yeah.
And are currently 5 and they started the season 5-1 on a hot streak.
I see the humor in minor league baseball more, I think, than anyone else because I worked a full season in minor league
Right.
baseball. So for me, I think it's funny. I think that's like the essence of minor league baseball is that we had 2 doubleheaders. One of them we were basically no hit, and they were both walk-offs for the home team. I think that's the silver lining you have to take from it is, hey, they won both games.
Right. Yeah, and for the second game, it was kind of funny. I mean, Centennial Field was just absolutely
There's nobody there.
empty.
I
There was
love doubleheader games at Centennial.
less than
Yeah, those
100
are the best.
people. Less than 100
You walk away
people
with a
there for
handful
that.
of baseballs and everything. What's the problem?
It's so much fun because you can just sit wherever you want and it doesn't matter and nobody's there.
Yeah.
You get a foul ball every 10th pitch. It's a lot of fun.
I got my brother a foul ball because the ball came over and the third baseman looked to the stands to
throw it in there.
to
no one
throw
was
it in,
there.
and then he was like, "Wait, there's nobody here," and I was like, "Hey," and so I got my little brother a foul ball, which was cool. But yeah,
That's great. Well, more games, and actually via the Lake Monsters, Northwest Texas TV does have a couple tickets throughout the year that we can
we
use.
do.
So we
Nice.
should
I've
take
used those
a little more
pretty much
advantage of that.
every year.
Maybe make the Huddle Up trip down there to Lake.
We should
Lake
do Huddle
Monsters
Up. Can we do
games.
Huddle Up on set at Centennial Field?
Yeah, no. So my home field advantage is somewhat close to our home here. It's our second home of Montreal. This is someone who's gone completely viral. We know his name is Oliver. I'm gonna get his last name wrong. Oliver Roux, I think is what his last name is. He's 6'10", 12 years old, playing for the Frenchie Phenom. So here's a clip of him playing. I don't know if you. So this is courtesy of Basketball. That we do at Northwest Texas TV. He's a 12-year-old. Now it's a weird kind of video because he normally plays with the 14 under team on 10-foot basket. But for this team, the Frenchie Phenoms asked him if he could play. They asked if he could play for them because he's from the area. So and this is pretty common to ask athletes doing travel teams. He's playing an 8-foot rim for 12-year-olds. It's completely unfair. It's just when I was in middle school. Come on. So he's playing for the Frenchie Phenoms. Then they play for the Canadiens de Langue, AAA program out of Quebec. He plays usually all season long on 10-foot rims, but for this tournament, it was 8-foot rims. So he played for the International 12 and Under Stadium. This is in Laredo, Spain. I just thought it was really funny. The clips are hilarious. It's not even fair. But again, it went viral because of how big he is. And that's he doesn't even have to jump. No. He just kind of
stand there.
So that's our clip. We can take
so
that down. So
unfair.
that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's really
That was
funny.
so
But I think
enjoyable
it was
to
really
watch.
funny because he went viral because of how big he is, and everyone's kind of like, that's not fair. Da, da, da. And it's like, okay, well, it's a travel game. It's during the summer. It doesn't really count.
Right.
It actually reminds me of Bryce Harper. When Bryce Harper was 11 and 12 years old, he was on the same boat. Now, he wasn't extremely tall and ridiculous,
Yeah.
but he could hit a ball 500 feet with a metal bat. So he's someone that would also join these travel teams and then go off and win tournaments and then come back home to Las Vegas. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's almost like we're kind of bringing it around like, okay, we've seen this before, just in a different sport.
Yeah, he came back to Las Vegas to cheer for the
Vegas
Golden
Golden
Yeah, for the Vegas
Knights.
Golden Knights. Yeah, I'm sure he partied just as hard as Washington did that night, so I'm not too worried about it. Time for my favorite segment of the week,
Oh, this
and
one's
it's
gonna
going
be
to
good, boys.
involve Dustin Tanner telling us just who is trash.
I
this
like that right here as we have our wonderful dumpster truck graphic. The just trash of this week is the lovely franchise named the Ottawa Senators. Now, if you've been following any of this drama,
I have not.
Mike Hoffman
As most hockey news.
Mike Hoffman's fiance tweeted mean things at Eric Carlson's fiance about or Eric Carlson's wife about their baby. Awful, mean things. And Eric Carlson is like a top 5 D-man. So this locker room dynamic split up the locker room. And then the Senators had to trade Hoffman. And they have just gotten absolutely fleeced on the trade. They sent him to San Jose and got back like a practice squad player practically and a 6th-round draft pick. And they had to send their 5th-round draft pick with the player they were sending to San Jose. And then San Jose sends Hoffman to Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, an interdivision rival of the Senators, and gets like 3 picks and a good prospect. So the Senators got absolutely fleeced on this deal because the wives on social media could not stay off social media and could not just stay away from each other. On top of the fact that, this team's going to be tanking next year. Ottawa's going to be tanking next year. Guess who owns Ottawa's first pick in the next draft next year? Do you have any idea, Paul?
Colorado Avalanche.
They do. They
see
do.
that.
Because Matt Duchene wanted to be traded to a playoff hockey team in Ottawa. And what has happened since he's gotten to Ottawa? Ottawa has sucked. They weren't able to make the playoffs. They've been a dumpster fire. Everybody has regressed. The coaching system has been broken. The GM got suspended for a sexual assault case. So that's going on in Ottawa as well. Fans have crowdfunded to raise billboards to tell the owner to sell the team. That's going on as well. The owner has threatened to move the team because he needs a new arena, but he's not willing to meet with the mayor about a downtown arena. So that's going on. The owner is the cheapest owner in the NHL. There's 6. I don't know what camera I'm looking at here, but wow.
Let's look at all of them.
You want to talk about a flaming dumpster fire of a hockey team? Last year, the Ottawa Senators made the Eastern Conference Finals. Things looked like they were looking up. And then within a 12-month span, one of your best players has been traded because his fiance can't keep her mouth shut on Twitter. One of your best defensemen wants to leave because the team is a dumpster fire. GM's been suspended, getting fleeced on trades. The fans are putting up billboards. The fans aren't even showing up at this point.
Yeah, I remember last year, the Eastern Conference Finals, they were barely getting 15,000 people
and
to
it's
show
because
up.
the owner is so awful. And man, like, you look at incompetence sometimes, but it gets to a point where it's just sad. Like,
So if they do, so let's put a twist on it. If they do sell a team, where does it go?
I think they stay in Ottawa.
You think they stay in
Hartford.
I think so. There's
Hartford?
there are 3 or 4.
Bring the
locations
Whalers
you can go.
back?
Yes.
It could go to Quebec because Quebec already has an arena, or Ottawa. I think if Melnick sells the Senators to
I think
somebody,
it stays in Canada, no?
yeah, it has to stay in Canada.
Or
but
A?
I think if Melnick sells the Senators, fans will start coming back. But this owner has alienated fans so much at this point, where and he was insulting the fans at the Winter Classic. He's like, our fans are bad. Like, he pretty much said our fans are awful. And it's like, I wonder why your fans are awful if the owner is the worst owner in the NHL. Like, wow, kind of shocking. Worst owner ever? Fans don't want to come out and give you money.
Longest
Also,
Just Trash segment.
and one other thing, they gave out $10.
And another thing.
And they gave out $10 McDonald's gift cards at a game.
Sounds
Guess
great.
what? Guess what? The cards weren't activated.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, Ottawa Senators are your Just Trash leading candidate for Just Trash of 2018.
Oh, we're having a whole
we will have a
award
roundup
ceremony.
segment.
Oh
I'm
my
writing
God.
these down.
I hope you are.
I gotta
trash
I don't think
watch
you are.
the tape.
Yeah, you
but
have to watch
I'll
back
write
again.
them down and
We'll
we'll have
have
a
the
Just
trashes.
Trash
We
winner.
got a little less than 2 minutes left on Huddle Up. One thing that never ever gets promoted or talked about. Hey, this is catching the ball. Cool. So is one thing that never gets talked about is the NHL draft, which is tomorrow. Any big surprises you guys see for that? They always seem to piggyback the NBA in whatever they do, and it's not to their fault because the NBA is
The
just
big surprise
the
will be
more popular
what
sport
happens
in
with the
US.
Just Trash winner, Ottawa, because they are expected to move their defenseman, Erik Karlsson. That'll make a big, there's going to be some picks that are swapped around. And I don't think the NHL draft's going to have a lot of drama this year, but I think there might be some minor picks swapped around.
And where do the Vegas Knights land on the draft after having the first
They're
pick last year? Right?
30th in the pick this year,
Okay.
and they are in the running of getting that defenseman. So it'll be interesting. I don't think there's going to be any big surprises from the NHL draft. Next year is going to be a big year. Next year's draft is stacked. There's a chance to get 4 superstars at the top of next year's draft. So this is a quiet year for the NHL draft.
Yeah. My brother chiming in on Huddle Up as he does every week. He says if you want fans to come to the Ottawa Senators game, $10 Tim Horton gift cards, not McDonald's.
Well, you want to make sure the gift cards are active.
You got to play the demographic there. That's where that's who they are. That's what they want. So that's going to do it for us here on the 99th episode of Huddle Up. It's taken us 2.5 years to get there, and we're almost to number 100. We're going to try and get everyone together for the 100th episode, so we may not be on next week, but we will let you know via our Facebook page and all that fun stuff on Northwest Access TV. That's going to do it for us this week. Dustin, Nick, I'm Paul. See you next time.